Monday morning, she's lying in bed there with her husband, and she's having tremendous amount of pain, and she just keeps saying, but I know why. It's because of all that stuff we went over and so on. And yeah, but the feelings were still in there until they exploded out of her. And when she started to yell and scream and rant and rave and so on, the pain was necessary.
One interesting thing is that people who have those mind-body disorders, they usually lead very restricted lives. They stop exercising, they stay in bed, they stay home. And you recommend that they start doing exercise again. Why?
Why? Well, first of all, this is assuming they're ready to take my advice. They're ready to understand the nature of the process that's going on. And if they are, I know that what they're experiencing physically is perfectly harmless. And so I know it's perfectly safe to tell them, now look, if you can accept the idea of what's going on, go ahead. And of course they don't, I tell them, don't go out and run 3 miles the first day, but, obviously work yourself into it gradually because you don't want to overwhelm your psyche. But again, the knowledge that there is nothing really physically wrong, it's perfectly reasonable for that.
You do surveys of the people who have been through the program. What is the feeling that they have that after they overcome decades, sometimes 30 years or more of chronic pain, incapacitating pain? What is the feeling? Is that one of empowerment, that they became masters of their own lives? What goes on?
I think that probably the most important emotional reaction to this is gratitude and relief, rather than feeling, oh boy, what a strong guy I am. But yeah, I think that's probably the most, I'm thinking, of letters that I've gotten from people and saying, that's really the problem. They're so grateful for the opportunity of having discovered this and rid themselves of this.
And some people, after a few years, they can have relapses, right? And make symptoms again, have pain again, or other things.
Well, even in the process of getting better, that often happens. That the symptom will go away, and then they'll develop something else, because as you know the phrase that I coined, the symptom imperative. In other words, as long as the emotional need for symptomatology exists, and so, yeah, it depends on how well one has been able to not change, but help the patient develop a situation where the need for the symptom is not as great, by understanding what's going on.
Some people, many people I think, reject the program. Offered the possibility of going through your program, they reject it. Why?
Actually, because they've talked to other patients, because they've read one or more of the books, they usually can answer this very well. But I'll say, how do you feel about the idea that your pain is being brought on by emotions, by psychological things? And, most of them say, well, I've read your book and I think that's probably so. Or I'd love for that to be so, but I just can't get over the idea that herniated disc is not causing my pain. So on. So you get all kinds of reactions.
What about doctors?
They have the mentality of automobile mechanics.
What has happened to the medical profession?
Well, that's a good question, because it was a lot better 80 years ago, 90 years ago. They become so enamored of the laboratory and the x-rays and the MRIs and so on, and really have remained, as part of the culture, have remained very naive as far as mind-body things are concerned. I mean, it's pitiful. It's pitiful because virtually all physical disorders have a psychological element. And sometimes, well, I'll tell you a sad, sad story to give you an idea. A man who developed severe pain in his face. As his family knew about me, one or two of them had been to see me. In fact, a son-in-law of his had been to see me. And I urged him to come and see me. Well, he wouldn't have any of that BS. He found somebody to do a surgical procedure. Told him that they could relieve this pain with a surgical procedure. I don't know what the hell they did. But he had a placebo reaction and the pain went away. A few months later, he developed cancer of the stomach. And a few months later, he was gone. I mean, this is powerful stuff. You don't play around with this stuff, because if you do, you're liable to get into big, big trouble. And this was such a tragedy. And of course, none of his family knows, because I wouldn't dream of telling him that this is what happened, that he need not have died, because he was urged to come and see me, but he wouldn't.
Well, on a lighter note, do you feel hopeful now that the word is spreading and more and more people are aware? Do you feel hopeful that this will change?
Well... Do you feel hopeful that we will have peace in this world? And do you feel hopeful that... Yeah, I'm afraid that the human condition will not have changed that much. It's too bad. But thus has it ever been. Maybe 100 years from now, 150 years from now, I know something might have happened, but...
You're teaching a lot of people to treat themselves better, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you. You're very welcome, I'm sure.
E se você quiser saber mais sobre essa entrevista e os bastidores do programa, vá ao blog do Milênio, na página da Globo News.